Hello everyone, I'm Margaret. Welcome to my brand new YouTube channel where I will be covering different topics on design. So a lot of people have been reaching out to me about my experience in bootcamp, which I will be covering in this video, as well as just my day-to-day as a UX designer, how I got here, why I decided to switch my careers, and yeah, hopefully I can share some helpful information with all of you and learn more about myself and my job as a designer along the way. I used to be in advertising art direction, and I guess I felt like it was too one-sided, where we're constantly pushing products to a user instead of working with them to collaborate on creating a better product. And I've always been interested in working in the tech sector, and as a result, UX design seems like a natural transition for me. I know I wanted to switch my career soon, so I felt like attending a bootcamp would give me a very strict deadline, so that I can build a portfolio from the ground up. Compared to other bootcamps like General Assembly, which costs, I think, close to $16,000. Designlab is about half the price at $7,500. Of course, that's not cheap either by any means, but it was something that was more along the lines of what I could afford at the time. Part of the reason why it's less expensive than its competitors is because everything is remote. There aren't any in-person classes, and I'm going to talk more about the structure of the course and the overall program later on. But I personally like to have that sort of flexibility where I can kind of wake up whenever I want and get to work and work as late as I want to. So Designlab is structured in two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. But before that, there's actually a Design 101 prerequisite. That course is more of teaching you the basics of visual design, where it's like typography, color theory, layout, balance, things like that. If you have a visual design background like I do, you might be able to submit some examples to Designlab, and the jury panel or whoever is looking at that get to decide whether or not it passes their standards. If it passes, then you can jump straight into the phase 1 of Designlab Bootcamp. Phase 1 is more about understanding the design process, so researching, designing, prototyping, testing, iterating on your designs. And that's where you really get kind of the nuts and bolts of what UX is all about. It involves a lot of reading materials and sometimes watching videos. And again, the course is structured in such a way that you can kind of read or watch the videos at your own leisure, based on your own schedule. And then for phase 2, it's a little more loose in the structure, in that you're kind of creating your own capstone projects. So your projects, you can either choose one of Designlab's briefs, so one of their creative briefs where they give you a prompt and you're creating a portfolio piece based on that, or you can choose your own design projects. So for example, if you go out and find your own clients and build a website or an app for them, it's just important to keep in mind that you're still trying to graduate on time. So when you're deciding what projects to take on, definitely try not to take on anything that's probably going to involve months and months, possibly even a year. Designlab also divides students into different cohorts. So a cohort is essentially a group of students. I want to say it's maybe 20 to 30, I don't have the exact number, of people who start the program at the same time. You can choose to either be on the full-time track or the part-time track. I started off in the full-time track, But then towards the end, as the work got a lot more busy, and particularly with phase 2, I did switch over to part-time for a few weeks. Full-time is essentially 40 hours a week. Part-time is 20 hours a week. So some students, because the course is really expensive, so they might choose to do part-time so that they can keep their day job and do design lab at night. So I've mentioned before that design lab is 100% remote, but that doesn't mean you're just sitting behind a computer screen all day and not talking to anyone. I think one of the best parts of design lab is they assign you a mentor. I personally really liked my mentor. For phase 1, it's definitely a lot more structured, and he answered a lot of my questions regarding the specific week-by-week coursework. But phase 2 is where definitely comes in handy, because the projects that you're doing is going to go directly into your portfolio. So obviously I wanted it to be as polished as possible. And having a mentor to answer your questions and kind of give you advice on how best to approach structuring your portfolio, and things like that. And also just, it was helpful to have insights into how it really is like day to day as a UX designer, and understand how he conducts research. You really need to understand why it's important to research and test, and be able to communicate that with your other team members as well, and get everyone on board. So being able to get that sort of invaluable advice from my mentor, I would say, is well worth the tuition cost of design lab. My mentor did help me prepare for some interviews as well, especially when it came to take-home assignments. Understanding how much work to put into it, and what the interviewer might be expecting, and knowing what questions to ask. One of the more social aspects of design lab is definitely the group critiques. You attend it once a week, and it's usually with between 5 to 10 students, where you're reviewing each other's work, presenting your work, and receiving constructive criticism as well. And it's all led by a moderator who is an actual UX designer in the field. So he or she also provides feedback as well, and kind of asks the right questions to generate discussion amongst the students. A lot of students don't come from a design background, and as a result, it's good to have practice knowing how to present your design ideas. And if you can't convince other people that your solution is a good solution, then it's going to be really hard to sell your ideas in the real world. I think that design is best learned not in a bubble. You really need to see other perspectives, and being able to go into the Design Lab student portal and see other students' work, as well as comments left by other mentors, is super helpful. Because each student only has one mentor that's assigned to you, just being able to read mentors' comments on other students' work and get a different point of view as to what their philosophy is on what UX entails. Design Lab is 100% remote, so any sort of camaraderie that you can get between students is fantastic. Especially because you don't want to feel like you're in this journey by yourself, and there's no one who you can reach out to for help. I've still been kind of stalking the Slack channel a bit, and I noticed that a lot of students have organized virtual happy hours with one another. I'm pretty sure part of that is also due to the pandemic and everyone being home all the time anyway. I'm really happy to see that students have started coming together, participating in hackathons even, and winning them. So it's really great to see that even when everyone's remote, they can still come together and grow a design community. If a student wants to learn more about how to use Figma, they can do so by attending one of the live tutorials conducted by one of our mentors, or if they want to learn about different careers even within UX, they can do so. Like if they want to learn more about artificial intelligence or service design, Designlab has a lot of webinars on those as well. Having a curriculum that's more curated with the design process is super helpful, so that I'm not scrambling to figure out what exactly do I need to put together a coherent case study at the very end for my portfolio. When it comes to phase one, it would have been more helpful if students could have better flexibility in the type of project that they want to do. I think one of them is regarding insurance, the other one is around e-commerce. The last one is kind of bizarre. It has to deal with time travel. As a result, a lot of students don't end up actually putting that project into their portfolio because it's so out there. I think it would be great to just have more variety in types of projects available to choose for phase one. While I feel that group crits are definitely really helpful in getting students to present their work and have experience critiquing others, it could definitely be organized better. UX is becoming a really hot field. The group crits used to be a lot more flexible in that, you could just sign up for whichever one fits your schedule. Now they get booked up so quickly, you really need to be on the lookout for a vacancy. Anyone from different cohorts can really join at any time. And as a result, some students are further out in the program than others that are just starting. And some of the topics or concepts in UX that are covered, beginners aren't as familiar with. So, for them to be able to critique someone who's towards the end of the program it feels not as productive. I feel that it would be better if these group crits were more organized by cohorts, so that everyone starts at the same time and they attend the same critiques, and they're kind of all learning along the way at the same pace. Connecting with other students is definitely one of the main benefits of being part of the bootcamp experience. Down the line, you're definitely going to need to reach out to your network if you're looking for another job opportunity. So it's good to know more product people. But aside from just, job hunting things, it's great to have other students who are kind of in the same place where you are in. They're going along the same journey, and you guys can bounce ideas off each other. You can even vent to each other about how much coursework you have, or how annoying the job hunting process is, because it really is. Of course, you have the option to choose one of Designlab's creative briefs to put into your portfolio as your case study and as your capstone project. But I would say that it's pretty easy to tell, between student work and someone who might be doing freelancing, because you're going to see those same made-up company names pop up repeatedly, and then you'll be like, that person must have attended XYZ bootcamp, because I've seen that fictional company a bajillion times in that exact design brief as well. So it's very easy to point out, and if you want to stand out from the crowd and have some actual experience dealing with stakeholders and a team, if they have one, then I would say definitely try to pursue your own projects. It shouldn't be really surprising, but a lot of people are interested in free work. So if you just make a public announcement on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and offered a free UX design consultation, or even just building out a prototype for them, consider very carefully which design project you do decide to take on. Think about how you're going to be constructing that case study at the very end. Are you going to be able to write together a very comprehensive, detailed, well-researched, well-tested story. Group critiques are also super helpful, but it's really what you make out of it. You know, I know some students who might be particularly shy, who like to sit back and kind of comment every once in a while, but don't present their work as often. I would definitely encourage everyone to step out of your comfort zone, even if it's very nerve-wracking. Over time, as you're presenting your work, you're going to be more confident in explaining why you made the design decisions that you did. Managing your time is also super important, particularly in phase 2 of the Designlab Bootcamp, because this is when they're not telling you, okay, read this article and it's going to take you about 30 minutes, or, you know, complete this assignment and it's going to take you about 2 hours. These are projects that you really decide on your own. If you don't manage your time, you might end up spending hours upon hours on something that might not be as important to your overall case study, or you might not be allotting the appropriate amount of time to research or recruiting users, for example. This is when I had switched from full-time to part-time because the work was ramping up, and I did have a freelance project on the side. So I had to kind of work around that as well and rethink how many hours I can realistically commit to my capstone project. UX design is different from pure visual design in that it's not just about making things pretty, of course. It has to be very user-friendly. But I will say that a lot of the portfolios that do stand out are the ones that have a good eye for visual design as well. Because if you think about it, if someone wants to hire you in the end, they're going to look at the end result of what you can produce. And if it doesn't look polished, if it looks really janky or like very dated, then they're going to think, you know, is this person going to be able to create a beautiful product for me in the end when I hire them? So even though a lot of students in Designlab actually don't have a design background, it's important that you start training your eye to kind of be able to look at something and think, oh, these colors are funky, or wow, this typography is beautiful, and it's beautiful because of XYZ reason. Look at sites like Pinterest even, or Dribbble. Dribbble I know gets a lot of flack because a lot of people just upload pretty UIs, user interfaces, and don't include a lot of background as to why they decided on some of their design changes or their design choices. But it's a good place to start. A lot of people love the way they look for a reason. And you know, the more you get exposed to that, you might start to understand, like, wow, people are really drawn to rounded corners, for example, or a particular color palette, the way that these colors go together, it looks really harmonious. So hopefully that was helpful for anyone who is deciding whether or not to attend bootcamp, particularly Designlab. I know I was on the fence for a while before eventually deciding to commit to it. Down the line, I do plan on including more UX design related content on this channel. So if you're interested, hit like, subscribe, and anything else that normal YouTubers ask of their viewers. I'm just starting out, so cut me some slack. Thank you. Bye.